Okay, so what I normally do for demos with prospects is just show them this is my QuickBooks screen on the right, and this is a remote viewer of my Google Nexus 7-inch tablet, Android tablet on the left, and that we will be doing transactions in QuickBooks, and then synchronizing the handheld, and then showing the results in the handheld, and then the same we'll do transactions in the handheld and show how they flow back to QuickBooks. And I tell them that you do not have to synchronize after every transaction because we have a database in the handheld that stores the data, and people typically synchronize a few times a day. It is if you need to synchronize after every transaction, you can do it, but it is not required. Okay, so here's my HandiFox screen, and here's the QuickBooks screen. So what I normally do is just to try to determine what sort of business that we are talking to. And in general, it's going to be people that have called us or contacted us expressing an interest in inventory management is one big broad category, or sales. And so I say, do you receive, you're interested in receiving items into your warehouse and doing shipping from your warehouse? And if that's the case, they would say yes. And so I would just kind of show them the warehouse functions. If they say, I'm also interested in outside sales, such that a sales guy out on the road with a phone or a tablet would be interested in sending orders back, then I will include that part. So what the first thing I try to do is sort of get a general idea of what sort of business are we dealing with, and it kind of comes down into two categories. People who are buying, almost everybody buys inventory. A few people manufacture things, but they still buy products, raw materials. So the two categories are somebody who buys materials and then does picking and packing in a warehouse to ship out. And then the other category are people who have sales guys out in the field with handhelds creating orders and sending them back. And then sometimes they use picking and packing also. They have all the functions. So the first thing I try to do is determine generally what kind of business that people are conducting that need our system. And the next question I always ask, are you on QuickBooks? Okay, because if they're not on QuickBooks, then they would have to get on QuickBooks, because we do not have a way to operate HandiFox without QuickBooks. We absolutely depend on QuickBooks because that's the source of all the information that we use, such as the inventory items, the customers, the prices, and so forth. We do not have a way to load HandiFox without QuickBooks. And sort of in following up on that line, I usually say we built HandiFox to follow, is my term, follow QuickBooks. And this means that a transaction in QuickBooks is also the same transaction in HandiFox, such as a sales order in QuickBooks is also called a sales order in HandiFox, and so forth. And because of this reason that we follow QuickBooks, training with us is one of our big advantages. We do not have a different kind of application. And this, I think, is one of our very biggest pluses, is we are what's known as tightly coupled with QuickBooks, and the transactions on HandiFox flow into QuickBooks as a transaction, not some file, not some thing they have to import. The synchronization automatically sends our data from the handheld into QuickBooks. And this is known as being tightly coupled, and many people are looking for something like this. And one reason is one of our main competitors is a program called, and I just heard yesterday a prospect in Orlando that's decided to buy HandiFox. He needs two handhelds, which in our case would be around about $3,000. Quoted him $11,000 for two handhelds. And I was surprised at how big that number was. $11,000 for two handhelds. And one reason for that is that there is another program on the desktop in addition to QuickBooks. And the user has to put all of their items and customers and prices and everything into, and then synchronizes the handhelds and then sends what are called journal entries back to QuickBooks. These are just money that go into accounts. And the customers are forced to learn a new program in addition to QuickBooks called, because it's a separate program running on the desktop. We actually had that 10 years ago with HandiFox. It was called a different name then. And we gave up because it was too hard, and we had customers doing exactly the same thing, telling us they did not want another program in addition to QuickBooks. I remember going to a trade show. The guy said, I like what you're saying. All I want is QuickBooks and a handheld computer, and that is HandiFox. So that just kind of set the stage here. We have QuickBooks and we have HandiFox, and the two talk to each other, very tightly coupled, very closely integrated. Okay, with that as sort of as a preparation, the first thing I do generally on the demo is try to follow the general flow of goods and materials into a business. The first thing, before you can sell anything, you have to have something to sell, right? So what I normally do is start with what's called a purchase order in QuickBooks. And a purchase order is used by people to buy things. So I can go to, this is my QuickBooks over here. I can go to the vendor center, and up here and here there's some existing transactions. We'll be looking at some more of these. Here's some purchase orders that are already existing. But to demonstrate the program, I'm going to generate a new purchase order in QuickBooks, which is typically where they are. So now I'm playing the role of somebody who is in charge of ordering material in the business, and I need to buy some parts from a vendor, and I go to QuickBooks and I open up this purchase order here. So first thing I do is I pick a vendor, and we'll just say offer on this one, and then I go down to the items, and I've got some items I have barcodes for. I actually have the actual parts here, so I can just now click that one and then go to the next column here, and I need 3 of those to buy. And now I go to the second item. Let's say I need 5 of those to buy. And let's go to the last item. And I need 2 of those to buy. Okay, so now I can save this and close it. And here it is. This is the one we just created with today's date. And if I want to look at that again in QuickBooks, I can do it. There it is. That's the one we just did today. And that's the number, M1-1-222. All right, so now I'm going to synchronize the handheld. And I'm probably going to have to change the number here. Just 1 second, sorry. Okay, so now I'm synchronizing HandiFox with QuickBooks over the network in my office. I had to change the address that was saved in HandiFox. All right, so now we have synchronized. Now, then we direct their attention to the handheld. This is our main menu, divided basically into inventory functions on the left and sales functions on the right. So right now we're interested in the purchase order, so I tap on inventory, which brings up some sub items. And I say we'll be looking at just about all these during the demo, but for now let's go to PO Center. Okay, so there is the purchase order that we just created. So it was created in QuickBooks, I synchronized the handheld, and now it appears on this list in the handheld. So I say here, now there's several things that one can do with this screen. I actually could create a new PO, purchase order, on the handheld if I needed to. You see the buttons at the bottom. I also can edit an existing purchase order if I have permissions. We have user permissions that the person may not have permission. If they don't have permission, they can't do it. Generally, it is used to receive the purchase order. So I'm going to tap on receive and assign it to the site. All right, so this is a receiving screen for the purchase order that we just created. So the sequence would be the company would create a purchase order, email it to a vendor or send it to a vendor, and then the vendor at some later time brings back the goods that were listed on that purchase order and delivers them to the customer, our customer. And so now what I say is this is now we're playing the part of a guy out at the receiving dock at the place where goods are unloaded at the business, and the person finds the purchase order associated with this delivery, and now it's going to scan the items on that list to confirm that they are correct. So I'm going to scan the first one. For the demo, I am using the camera in my tablet, and there are several other ways to do scanning with the laser scanners, but the simplest one is just use the camera, and actually there's a free app we get that connects it. So I scanned the first item, it found it on the list and put a blue mark there. If I scan something not on the list, here's what happens. Let me get my sheet here. I'm going to scan this barcode. Okay, so it says this item is not on the list. And so this is the check here to make sure that these items are correct, is that the HandiFox only is looking, in this case, for 3 barcodes. That is the barcode associated with each item that's on the list. So I can click OK. And so now it goes back to the list. Now, I did successfully scan the first one. If I scan the first one again, you see the quantity is 1. Okay, it changes the 1 to 2, and if I scan it a third time, okay, it changes it to 3. Okay, so now let's go to the next item. That was all that was ordered. Here's a new item. Okay, so now we need 5. Now I don't want to scan it 4 more times. And if you had 50, of course you wouldn't scan it. So I just tap right on the receive column, and the little keyboard comes up. I'll wait till you can see it. And then just tap 5, which is the quantity we needed, and put that in. All right. Then I can go to the last item and scan it. Okay, we need 2 of those. I can tap it, and the keyboard comes up. I tap the 2, and all right, I think we're finished with this one. So I could go back and just kind of look and see, yes, everything was received as was ordered. If something was not available, okay, let's say it's one of those, the last item, there was only 1 instead of 2 that was ordered. I would put 1 in. I would save the purchase order, and then the results of actually what was received go to QuickBooks. The purchase order would stay open because it's 1 short. And if the item comes in later, the customer could go back to the PO and then do the last item. The customer could also cancel the order and then just simply close out the purchase order. So most of the time what happens, everything comes in, but occasionally something is not available or is short or whatever. Okay, so now I'm going to save this purchase order, and we will sync again, but before we do that, let's go back to QuickBooks, and let's minimize this, and we're going to bring up what's known as the item list in QuickBooks. That is simply a list of every item, every inventory item, and also we can do service items and other kinds of items. Generally, we're talking about inventory and service. So I'm going to find one of the items that we just received on that little PO session, and it's the 8,000 numbers right there. So there were 86 of this first item before we had this little receiving session. Now I'm going to sync the handheld, and we'll keep our eye on that number. Okay, so 86 changed to 89, and the next one changed, and the next one changed. Those are the 3 items that we had on the receiving section. Okay, so what happened was we created a purchase order in QuickBooks. Let's go back and look at it again. Notice now that this purchase order has been changed by QuickBooks to say received in full. Everything that was on that PO has now been received. So we created a, remember, we created on QuickBooks, we sent it to the handheld, and then when the goods came in, we found it on the handheld list. We used the barcode scanner to scan the items into the list. We save the list and synchronized again, and the results go back to QuickBooks. Now, they're doing this now. Virtually everybody is already doing this, but they're doing it with pieces of paper and pencil. And they're having to write down outside what was received. And then somebody brings that paper back in, and somebody else goes to QuickBooks and inputs it into QuickBooks system. So there's two chances they could get the wrong number. Either the person writing it down gets the wrong number, or maybe gets the wrong letters written down. And the person in the office could misread it and mark the wrong item has been received. So right here, we see a big advantage of something like HandiFox. We take the purchase order that was created in QuickBooks, the original purchase order. We put it in the handheld, and then when the shipment comes in, the person at the receiving dock scans the items with the barcode, which says that the items are correct, and does the counting, and then electronically sends that information back to QuickBooks. Okay, so now let's say that they are interested in sales, okay, that they have guys out in the field. And so we're going to shift gears again now. Now I'm going to go to the handheld, and I'm going to be a sales guy. And I'm going around taking orders from customers, and I want to send those back to the warehouse to be shipped. All right, so I go now. I go to open up HandiFox on my tablet or phone, and I tap on Sales. Okay, this is the Customer Center. This is a lookup. So when I do, I tap up in the customer, and I just tap in a BI because I know there's a couple of bills in here. All right, and let's say now I'm at Bill's Road Service. Now, see at the bottom there are several types of transactions we can do. We can do what's known as an order, a sales order, which does not ship anything. It simply is a piece of information that says somebody wants to buy something. A sales order gets converted to an invoice. An invoice means it's shipped, and an invoice is a bill to somebody to pay. So let's say right now we're just going to do orders, create an order. I tap on Customer Orders. All right. This is a list of with any existing sales order, so that the sales guy can see, well, you've already got something out here. In this case, there are none, so I'm going to tap on New. All right, so the title of this is Create Order. Now I'm sitting with the customer, or maybe I'm going through his or her stock room, and I'm going to add items to this list using the barcode scanner. All right, so now, of course, the assumption here is there are parts available at the business to scan. So I'm going to scan the first item. Okay, and let's say the customer says, oh, I need to get 3 of those. So I just tap right in the number and then put it at 3 and click OK. All right, now, most of the time they're not going to have be available to scan every barcode to make a sales order. They're talking to the customer in the customer's office, not out where the parts are. So there's other ways to get items on this list. For instance, we have a way to search through the list and look for keywords. So I'm going to go up to the box here. This is the data entry box, and type in brush, because I happen to know many of my items have the word brush in there. Then I just tap on Find. Okay, so every item on this list, you can see at the bottom where the description is, has the word brush. Okay, and now I'm going to say, okay, I want one of those. I can do multiple brushes from this screen if that's what they want. I want those two. I want to add those to my order list. So I click 2 of those, and I go back to Add, and it puts them on the sales order. I found them by searching for a keyword, brush, and found the whole big list. Now the 2 that I picked are back on the front. So let's say I want just 2 of those, and let's say I want 6 of those. Okay. All right, so I've added those to the list. Okay. So then I can save this sales order. All right, and there it is with today's date, and it's sales order M2-28-0. All right, so now if I'm the sales guy, I can synchronize whenever I have internet connectivity, and we tell them that it could be data service through the data service on the phone if they have it. They could take it to a public hotspot, or could take it back to the office and synchronize with the office Wi-Fi. Multiple ways to synchronize the handheld with the simple internet connectivity. Okay, so I'm going to now synchronize. Okay, and now we can go to the customer center and look for sales orders and sort by date. Well, let's go with open sales orders. A few less. Okay, so there it is right at the bottom of the list, 716. There's the sales order we just created on the handheld, and it's available in the office in QuickBooks for anybody to see. Those were the three items that we scanned, and there it is. Okay, so this is the process. The sales guy goes out with the customer, could be literally anywhere in the world that's got internet connectivity, with a handheld device, and they find the customer from a list, and they open up an order, a blank order form, and use either their scanner or by searching to find the items for the list, put them on the sales order, synchronize it, and the order goes back to the office electronically and appears in QuickBooks. The importing is automatically done by us when it's synchronized. It shows up on the list. Okay. The similar thing can be done with invoices. Some people have guys who sell off a truck, and exactly the same thing would happen. I'll show you that. So now let's shift gears a little bit, and now we're not sending a sales order back. We're simply going to take an order and going to sell it from the truck because the truck's got inventory on it. So in this case, I can go back to sales, and we can pick somebody else here. And now I'm going to make an invoice. So it opens up the invoice, and I can use the scanner again. More than likely, this can be scanned because the items on the truck, of course, have barcodes on them. So the sales guy can simply pick up the item from the truck, scan the barcode, and it's on the list. Let's say I want 2 of those. And pick up the next item from the truck, scan the barcode. Okay, let's say we only need 1 of those. Pick up the next item, scan the barcode. Okay, let's say we only need 1 of those. I could now save that. Okay, and my display is not keeping up with me here. Okay, so now we can shift gears a little bit. We'll go to the invoice list, and we're going to say open invoices, and we will sync. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so that's the little invoice which we created on the truck. We synchronized the handheld, and then this invoice is available back in the office for people to look at if they want. Okay, so sales orders are used to just an order. A sales order is known as non-posting. It doesn't create any financial transaction. It does not remove any inventory. An invoice does, however. Invoice removes inventory from the truck or the warehouse and creates what's known as an account receivable, or a notice or a note in the customer's credit file that the business now owes, what is this number? $18.91 from this one invoice that was delivered. Okay, so either sales orders or invoices, or take payments. If the customer, now in the case of this bill here, the customer, let's take this guy, owes $50. So maybe he needs to make a payment. I can click on payment. Okay, I can put, let's say all he's got is $50. So I can put in a 50 here. Okay, and then I'm going to auto apply it. And there's one invoice there, and it applies $50 to that bill. So so with HandiFox, they can accept payments. They select the invoice to apply it to, and then the driver would keep the check or the credit card number or whatever for the payment. I'm going to say no other changes. So basically, that's kind of the view from the sales and selling side of the handheld. We can find the customer. We can create a sales order which does not ship anything. We can create an invoice which does take the items out of inventory. And for people that already have invoices, we can accept payments. There's another kind of document down there at the bottom. You see a sales receipt. A sales receipt is when you sell something and get the money at the same time. And so that's a fourth kind of transaction that could be done here. Okay, so while we're here, other items on the handheld. If I go back to inventory, we can also do inventory counting. Most businesses have to do at least once a year, they have to go through and make a complete count of all their inventory. So we can have a way to help them with that. So this is inventory counting. And the way this works is the counters can be out in the warehouse with a HandiFox device, and they simply go down through the aisle, and the items are probably up on shelves, and they can scan a barcode, which I will do. All right, it says, I'm going to pick this location. It says at this location, we're supposed to have 10 items. Let's say we can only find 8. So I just tap in this section, put an 8, and green check mark, and click OK. Simply go to the next barcode. Scan the barcode. And here we're supposed to have 60. Let's say we can only find 55. Okay, click OK, and so forth. So they could go through a whole row or something if they wanted to and count up. I've only done 2, and shows we're missing 5 of one and 2 of the other. Okay, so now I'm going to apply this account. I'm going to say yes, which means I'm finished. I'm ready to submit it. So what happens with a count, it comes to the office for review by the manager before it's posted. And the reason for that is if a business loses inventory, is missing inventory, that's an immediate expense item because it's lost. And the money that they paid for it is now lost and has to be written off. So how that's done, we're going to back to QuickBooks. And as I mentioned, we do not have a separate program on the desktop. We do have some menus in QuickBooks. So if I go to QuickBooks File and down to HandiFox, here's our menus, and I'm going to Counting Sessions. Okay, we don't have any yet, but as soon as we sync, we'll have it. Okay, there's a little balloon down here that says there are counting sessions waiting for your approval. I can refresh the list. There it is. Click on it and look at it. Okay, so it tells me that there were 2 items counted. We're missing 5 of those and 2 of those. Okay, now I'm a different guy now. I'm a manager guy in the office reviewing the results of this count. I can close it. I have 2 options. I can apply it, which means that the inventory levels would be reduced and there would be the appropriate expense item created to offset the cost. And then, or I could void it. Let's say that there's somebody is missing 100. Well, wait a minute, I know we just got a new shipment yesterday. It's over in another place. Go count those 2. And I could void the count, send it back to the handheld, and they could try it again. In this case, I'm going to simply say apply. And it reminds me again, all shown data will be applied to QuickBooks. And I say okay and save it. and that's the transaction. We've dealt with this counting session, and now I need to synchronize the handheld again because we don't let a new counting session start until the first one is reviewed, yes or no. In this case, it was yes, and so I sync, and we're back to the handheld. Other items that we can do back on inventory. Okay, bin locations refer to the fact that with QuickBooks Enterprise, which is what I have, that's the most expensive desktop version of QuickBooks, they can keep track of where in the warehouse that things are stored. That's called generally called row and bin, because the containers are in a row of cabinets, and then each one, or a row in a cabinet, and then there would be individual bins along the shelf. So row and bin, or bin locations, it refers to that. So bin locations is just a way for us to help the customer deal with that. This is kind of a typical example. This might be aisle, bay, row, and bin. And the reason they do this is if they have a big warehouse, this is kind of like a street address. So the pickers, the guys that have to pick items for the orders, know where to go to find things. They don't have to hunt around and look, for items. That would be impossible. Some people have 5,000 items or more. And you can see if you have 5,000 items, you need some addresses to go find these items. Okay, so I'm going to go back from that. We also support something called build assembly. This is a QuickBooks function. I use example of a guy's building chairs. If you have a chair, you have one back, one seat, and 4 legs. So that's 3 different inventory items that you are using. So an assembly would be created in QuickBooks that says, okay, this chair it takes, one back, one seat, and 4 legs to build a chair. And then the workers out in the manufacturing area say, okay, today we want to build 10 chairs. The system checks and makes sure there's enough inventory to build 10 chairs. If something is short, let's say there's only 9 backs, it would say to them, you can only build 9. You do not have 10 backs, therefore you can only build 9. And then when you do this, and we do support it in the handheld, it removes the components, moves enough chair backs and seats and legs to make the chair, removes them from inventory, and in its place it puts in chairs which have a separate part number, a separate barcode. The finished assembly is now done and created. That's called build assembly. And so that means we do support that, and it can be done from the handheld. Okay, I think we've kind of covered the handheld here. Scheduling, I'll talk about that. We've integrated HandiFox with Google Calendar. And what scheduling looks like, let's see if I have any appointments on here. I don't have any. So in the Google Calendar, let's say this is a service business and they have to send guys out to do service calls. From the office, the person that answers the phone could enter an event tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock into the Google Calendar for the user of this device. Usually it's a guy with a truck. And then that same the appointment would say 9 o'clock, check leak at Kelly Ford with the address and the phone number. And then that information goes into Google Calendar. It shows up on the Google Calendar in the guy's handheld, and also on this list in HandiFox. It would be right here, there would be an appointment. 9 o'clock Friday, check water heater at Kelly Ford. And then furthermore, in these appointments, we can embed links to transactions, such as the receptionist could go ahead and make a sales order that they would put in the customer name, address, phone number, and so forth, create that in QuickBooks, create a sales order number, put maybe generally something like a 1-hour charge that could go on there already, and then that would already be done in QuickBooks, and then in HandiFox that information would be there, and it can be linked from the appointment. So all the technician has to do is open it up, click on it, and the a sales order has already begun, and then that can be turned into an invoice. So that's what scheduling is all about. Integration with Google Calendar. Okay, so let's focus back on QuickBooks and our menus in QuickBooks. And usually about this time, they want to know about the barcodes. We've already had questions about the barcodes. With HandiFox, we manage the barcodes within HandiFox. Some people have them in QuickBooks Enterprise and say, fine, we will copy those and put those into HandiFox because we need to manage those so that the handhelds will have to have the right barcodes. So I say we can generate a unique barcode for every new item coming in from QuickBooks. And it looks like these. This is a 13-character string of letters and numbers, and it is unique. And if you don't have another barcode, you can just use this one. A lot of people who sell products, of course, the products have barcodes on them. So in that case, they can change this one to something like this. Those are generally all numbers. That's an example. I think this is 10 digits, all numbers. We can also use the QuickBooks name for the barcode because the name is unique, and some people just change the barcode to be the same as the name. That's fine. So any of these can be used, and we can deal with any of those within HandiFox. But again, we control the barcodes from this list inside HandiFox. All right, so let's say now they want to print some labels. So I can click some of these. Okay, put up what I want to print. Just one label per item, and I'm going to print label. I don't need the name, the unit of measure, or the price. This is like you out from the warehouse and click on print. Okay, so something called ID Automation has opened up. ID Automation is a third-party product we use for printing. We can, without ID Automation, print a very simple label, but it's kind of small. It's only 1 inch high by 2 inches wide. But it can be done just with HandiFox without ID Automation. But we really generally always talk about ID Automation because it gives the customer a lot more flexibility. And it only costs $139 one time to buy ID Automation. So that's it. I'm going to close this. And so here's what happens. Here's the label. And furthermore, I can step through. You can see here's the other labels. I'm stepping through these 4 labels. Okay. And what ID Automation would do is allow me, if I wanted a label that's 5 inches wide and 2 inches high, I would create it in ID Automation and then save it. The information would come from HandiFox with this info about what they want, but including the barcode image. But I'm sorry, just the text. ID Automation would create the barcode. The point here is that they can make it bigger. They can add other things to it. They could put a picture on this label if they wanted to. They can add things to it and design it. The biggest benefit is this. I go to Print Preview. So, all right, so this is a letter size. You can see I only picked 4 barcodes, but this particular type of product is you buy these standard sheets at the office supply. And there's 30 on the page, 3 columns and 10 rows down the sheet. So if I filled up every one of them, there'd be 30 labels I could print on one of these pre-made sheets, and I do it in my regular office printer. I do not have to have a special label printer that would print from a roll of labels or something. So I always go through this and show this. Now the only thing is, if they need waterproof, high temperature, special text or something, they're going to have to buy a special label printer. But that's fine. We can interface with it. ID Automation can interface with it. But this has a lot of interest with our customers because of the fact they can print labels. We generate the barcodes for them. They can print the labels. They can design their own here with ID Automation, and it's very inexpensive. A lot of people call up who are not using barcodes. A lot of people. They just know because the world has been using barcodes for what, 20 years or more. They know they should be using barcodes because they're having errors out in the warehouse. They're shipping the wrong thing. Their guys are picking the wrong things. They know they need to go to barcodes. They have almost no idea how to start. This is a kind of a basic thing I'm sure you will encounter. people will say, I know we need to be on barcodes. I don't know how to start. Well, HandiFox is the answer. We will generate a barcode for you if there is not one already on your products. If there is, we'll copy it and save it. And we have a way to print labels that you can use for your bins. And we have a way that you can, with our handheld, scan that barcode if you're selling it. And we have a way to, the next thing I'll show you is how to do the shipments with the barcodes. Okay, so this is a very common, people call us because they're not on barcodes and they want to go to barcodes and they just don't know where to start. So other things in our menus in QuickBooks. HandiFox menus, let's talk about open transactions to pick and pack. All right, we're going to shift gears again now. Okay, we're going to be talking, you may be talking, hopefully you will be talking to a business with a warehouse. And they don't need any sales guys because they get orders over the internet. A lot of people nowadays, of course, have that. They have a website, e-commerce website, the orders come in, they go into QuickBooks, but now they want to ship them. And a lot of them just print things out on pieces of paper and they send them out to the warehouse, and guys ship the wrong things and they're losing items and so forth. And they know they need barcodes for what is known as picking and packing. Picking refers to the fact that the people, and they're called pickers. Pickers will have a list of items to be shipped. They will take a cart out to the warehouse and they'll go up and down the aisles and pick the items from the shelf and put them on their cart ready to go out. And then packing, it's a two-step process. Packing means they put it in the box and they seal it up and they put the customer address on it and they put what's called a packing slip. We've all gotten things over through the mail, right? Well, they all have a packing slip inside which says simply what was shipped in that order. So we will do that too. Okay, so how can HandiFox help somebody with that? Well, they simply open up File, HandiFox, and then go to Open Transactions to Pick and Pack. Okay? So we can start with either sales orders or invoices. Typically, it is done with sales orders. Because an invoice, actually, the time you do an invoice, it's already taken the items out of your QuickBooks inventory. But some people do that because they get paid from Amazon and it's already an invoice. And okay, we can deal with either one. I'm going to show you invoice, sales orders. Okay, so now I'm going to change my hat again. My hat now is I'm the shipping guy. I know that I'm responsible for getting these orders out. So I'm sitting here looking at this list in the HandiFox menus in QuickBooks, and I see that all three of these, wait a minute, there's a problem with this one because either the inventory is not there or their credit is no good. We can't ship that one today, but we could ship these two and probably a lot more. So then I simply print the list. This goes through their printer network, very simple. And I did one earlier, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so here it is. It's just a regular, it's a letter size printer. It's got the sales order number, customer, the date, the amount, and a barcode. This is not an inventory item barcode. It is a sales order barcode. It's a barcode of this number over here, okay? And the way this is used is like this. I'm going to go back to the handheld now. I'm going to change gears again. I'm going to go to sales, okay, and I'm going to open orders, all right, and I'll see if I can find my open order list here. Okay, I've got one on the list. Let's see if I can get to this barcode. Okay, I scanned that report I just showed you with my handheld open to the open orders list, and it found it. What it really did, it found the correct customer first, and it found the correct order because the customer could have more than one order. Okay, and you see the big benefit of this is the computer did it, not some guy, okay, who read this and then went to the wrong customer, or you went to the wrong items, or got the wrong order or something. So we've eliminated a big source of error here by having a way to scan a barcode and find the correct order in the computer. Our customers really like this feature because otherwise there's a lot of errors can creep in. All right, so it's sort of like the receiving side. We have an item here and we're going to pick it. The first thing to do, I'm going to scan the barcode. Okay, so we need 3 of those. So I just tap in and put a 3. Click OK. Scan it again. Next item. Okay, we need 2 of those. I tap the number, write in 2, and go click. All right, I scan the last one. Okay, we need 2 of those. Okay, so I go back and make sure they're all there. 2, 3, and 2. Okay, fine. I can save the pick list. I actually have an option to print it right now. I don't really need it right now. I'm going to say no on printing. Okay, so it goes back to the list, and it goes back to that same transaction, but now the option has changed from pick to pack. It is a 2-step process, and the second step is primarily for verification that everything is there. So I now can click pack. It's the same list, and I'll scan the item one more time. I don't have to deal with the numbers of the items. I just have to scan that barcode one more time. It's a confirmation scan just to make sure that it is correct. Everything is correct. All right, now notice what it's doing. It's turning these green. Okay, if I click off that, you can see it turn green. There's only one left. Notice the save button down here is grayed out. I have to scan every item one more time. I don't have to do the count. I just have to scan the items, the correct items, to double check and make sure that I can save this. Now customer can skip this. This pack all button is available as an option. And if I click on that, it'll automatically show everything as being scanned. But I usually go through it just to show them how it works. So I can scan the last item now. Okay, now the save button is lit up, and I can click save. And it says, now, do you want to print the packing slip? Now I will say yes, because I'm getting ready to seal up this box and send it to a customer. And I need a packing slip to go in the box. So I simply say yes. From HandiFox, we can create and print a packing list. It looks like this. I'll wait till the display catches up. So it's just a simple list of every item on that order. And in this case, there were 7 items ordered, 7 items shipped, and there's no back orders from this item. Okay, so I could print this out, and usually there'll be a printer right out in the shipping area, and then they can print it out and put it in the box. Okay. Now notice that the sales order is off the list because it was completely picked and packed. It's not on the list. Now, something else happened when I saved that packing slip, and that is we automatically created an invoice. An invoice means that things have been shipped. They're taken out of inventory at the supplier, and the account for the customer, the value is put on their account. So that's we'll synchronize, but before we do that, let's go to the customer list and look for invoices. And today's date, we had one earlier, but we'll keep our eye on that as we synchronize. Okay, so there it is. That's the one we just did. Okay, and there was 2, 3, and 2. Okay, so at this time I kind of go back with the customer. So what we did is we started with the sales order that was in QuickBooks. We printed out the list. Okay, open order transactions to pick and pack. We printed this list out. All right. And then we scanned it with the barcode scanner out in the shipping area and found the correct order and opened the pick list. We did the picking. We saved that. We opened the packing slip. We did the packing. We printed the packing slip, and then we automatically created this invoice when at the time that we did that one right there. We created this invoice when we did the packing slip. Okay, so that's picking and packing. That is a lot of interest to people that have warehouses. They want to automate it, and that's how we do it. All right, any questions about picking and packing?
No, really. No question.
Okay, so other items over in our center. Some people ask about how do you move inventory from the warehouse to the truck. We have a thing called Transfer Center, okay, and I could start it off by creating what's known as a fill transfer. In this case, I want to transfer something from the main site to a truck, okay, and then I could just generate a transfer. We have two ways to do it, or I could just go to next. I can manually do it, okay. So the reason you need this is that you have inventory. If you have trucks with inventory on them, then the flow is all new items come into the main warehouse and known as the main site. And then they need to be transferred to the trucks so that the trucks can go out and sell them or use them in a project. And so this is how we do it. We have a system to create a transfer. It's a transaction. And when we do this, another similar transaction shows up in the handheld for the truck. The driver receives the inventory on the truck, and that's how we do it. Inventory can also be transferred from the truck back to the warehouse if they need to do that, or from one truck to another truck. That's how to do that. So we have a transfer system that'll do that. And if you remember, we can also do it based on what's been sold, okay, from some period to, whenever the truck was in last week, you could do it. Or desired QOH level means that a lot of these guys want to have items on the truck with a certain number in the bins. And so our system can calculate what was sold since the last time they were in for each item, and therefore what they need to do to replenish up to the desired QOH level. So there's two ways to generate these automatic transfers, or it can just be done line by line manually, as I showed you. So that's transfers. Okay, so I think that's kind of the quick run through. That's kind of what I do for the first demo with a lot of guys. And then if you have any questions, of course, we'll go into more detail.